Yuta just completely outsmarted not just Sukuna but even us, the audience, and he has got a genius plan in which he's about to fire a hollow purple directly at Sukuna, potentially ending this fight right here, right now. I can't lie, this chapter was pretty crazy, seeing a lot of flashbacks and also seeing the real Gojo as well, but mainly seeing Yuta in action in Gojo's body. It was just wild and much needed after this 1 month break with no Jujutsu Kaisen. I love this chapter and I got a lot of theories to talk about what's to come after this chapter in regards to Yuta's true plan to defeat Sukuna right here, right now. Without further ado, let's get right into this. Be sure to leave a like, hit up a ton, thank you, and of course, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for a ton of consistent and quality JJK content just like this. Less than 10% of people who watch my videos are subscribed, so if you love JJK, I promise you won't regret subscribing. And of course, thank you to the special grade members of the channel, it's much appreciated, guys. Alright, let's get right into this. So first things first, I will briefly touch upon chapter 262 because apparently this is a 2-part chapter, so this is the second half of 262, something like that, but all in all, it should count as one whole chapter since 262 was a very short chapter and was the beginning of this fight. Don't worry, I won't take too much time on it. I just want to touch upon the fact that I do think people were downplaying Yuta too much from that chapter. I know Yuta took a couple hits from Sukuna in that chapter, 1-2 punches, but you do have to realize that for whatever reason, he didn't know that Sukuna had domain amplification at the time. Well, I shouldn't say that. He does know that he has domain amplification, but he didn't know that he could use it inside during domain expansion. So even Gojo was taken aback by this, as Gojo says, wait, Sukuna can use domain amplification during domain expansion? That's a pretty wild feat. How can he even do that? So of course, this takes Yuta aback quite a lot, which is odd though, since shouldn't Yuta have access to all of Gojo's memories? Since it seems like when Kenjaku took over someone's body, Kenjaku had access to all the information. With Kairi Todori, it seemed like he had access to her information, and with Geto, he very clearly had access to so much of his memories when he's talking to Mei, when he was talking to other people, and especially when he was talking to Gojo. The very way that he spoke, the way that he acted, his mannerisms, and even his speech pattern were all of Geto's. So it's a bit weird that Yuta doesn't have access to all of Gojo's memories. The only reason I can assume that he doesn't is maybe to scan the brain's memories to get all the information. It takes time. Maybe that's not something you can do right away, because it was said that people like Sukuna, Choso, Yorozu, they actually got the memories of their vessels by scanning their memories, by scanning their brains. So could it be possible that as soon as Yuta took over Gojo's body, he didn't have time to scan the memories and just immediately went into action because he didn't have time? Though of course, it is important to note that Gojo's brain isn't there, so perhaps it is a bit different from someone taking over someone's body via incarnation where the brain of the person is still there. In this case, Gojo's brain isn't there to scan, but still, that does make you question, why did Kenjaku have all of Geto's memories? It's very weird, but regardless, I'll just go with the assumption that they didn't have time to scan the memories and he just immediately went into action. I'll just assume it's that for now. But again, Yuta taking those hits in 262, unlike everybody who was saying Yuta's trash or Yuta's garbage, I don't think he was that deep, to be honest. He was caught completely off guard. He didn't know he could use domain amplification while using domain expansion, so it makes sense why he took those hits, and even then he bounced back like it was nothing. Now to talk about this chapter, which was really cool, I'm gonna be honest. So it said that Yuta can't use any other curse technique beside Gojo's Limitless, so of course that does mean that if for whatever reason Kenjaku's curse technique ends or needs to be activated intermittently during certain intervals, yes, Yuta will die at some point. Now we don't know what the time limit is. A lot of people think it's a 5-minute time limit, but that's actually due to a gross mistranslation during the leaks, which even to this day, a month later, people still believe Mei never said that at all. What Mei said is that if Yuta doesn't get his copy curse technique, and Kenjaku's curse technique is the type that needs to be activated during certain intervals, so let's say every couple minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes, Yuta will die during those activation periods. So we don't actually know how long Yuta has. Even Yuta doesn't know how long he has inside of Gojo's body until Kenjaku's curse technique deactivates or until it needs to be reactivated. So for all we know, it could be coincidentally 5 minutes, it could even be 1 minute, which obviously it seems like it's not, since I think he's been fighting Sukuna for at least a minute now. It could be 10 minutes, it could be 30 minutes, it could be an hour, it could even be days or weeks until Kenjaku's curse technique needs to be reactivated intermittently. But for all we know, Kenjaku's curse technique could be a one-time use where even if you don't have his curse technique anymore, once the curse technique's been used, you have that body permanent. So it could be possible that Yuta has his body forever, which is also something that Sukuna touches upon later on, where even he's thinking about all these possibilities. I mean, the fight goes pretty well. Yuta does land some pretty good hits on Sukuna, but you know, Sukuna is still heavily nerfed. Do remember he's got 50 million nerfs on his head. It's still impressive, don't get me wrong, but still, do remember Sukuna's very nerfed. And they just have a decent back and forth where they keep landing hits on each other. And Yuta even says that now he knows why you can't master Gojo's curse technique with just one swap training. He says you need the 6 eyes. It's a must need for his curse technique, which we already know since Sukuna did discuss this while he was fighting Yuta inside of the initial domain clash where Yuta was in his own body. A pretty cool line that Yuta remembers where Gojo says, "It's okay, I'm the strongest," and he thinks, how much time did it take for Gojo to say that confidently? So it does go back to that age-old question of Geto asking Gojo, are you the strongest because you're Gojo, or are you Gojo because you're the strongest? And I think we finally do have an answer to that now. Gojo was the strongest because he's Gojo. Gojo is the one who made himself that strong. He trained very hard with it, and he's the one who makes great use of his own power. It's because he is who he is that he is the strongest. Very cool to finally get an answer to that age-old question from Geto. And Sukuna even notices that Yuta is struggling with Gojo's curse technique too during this fight as he punches him away. And Kenjaku, the rat that he is, the snitch that he is, he even informed Sukuna all about Yuta's copy curse technique. Kenjaku says that he thinks a requirement of copy is most likely for Eureka to consume a body part or even the body itself. And of this, Sukuna realizes that Yuta doesn't have his curse technique anymore, as we discussed before, and Sukuna even wonders for how long is Yuta gonna have Gojo's body? Is this a permanent thing? Is this gonna be for a couple minutes, a couple weeks? He doesn't actually know himself. Now, I think this is a mistranslation from Miyamura, where he says that after the swap training, Gojo takes a dig at Yuta saying his cursed energy is too efficient and, you know, Maki and everybody else defend him. And the reason I think it's not after the swap training is it's really hard to tell because it's so far away, but when we see Maki, she's got her old haircut, she's got her glasses, and she has no scar. And Panda also is back in his big form. He's not in his cute form. So I don't think this is from the swap training. I think this is just from even before Shibuya, probably even before JJK itself started. And here's the best part. Yuta begins to chant Hollow Purple as he gets ready to fire off. Of course, Sukuna isn't gonna allow this since this would very likely kill him. Hollow Purple is a very strong technique and he punches Yuta very far away. And in an awesome double page spread, we got Yuta using blue to pull in a recorder from the background. And in this recorder, we have Inumaki saying, "Don't move." And this is really cool because I think what's going on is as the recorder is playing, it actually damages Inumaki in the moment that the recorder was active. So I guess you can't just cheat and spam the recorder infinitely. It seems like even if the recording is used, it will take damage from Inumaki in real time. So Inumaki, another beautiful double page spread. We got blood coming everywhere as he takes a lot of damage, and I mean a lot of damage. I don't even think he was this hurt when he used against Hanami, and he was spamming against Hanami. Makes sense since he's using against Sukuna, and I don't even want to imagine if he tried to use against a fully healthy, no cursed energy nerf, no output nerf Sukuna. It probably wouldn't even work. I think it would just kill him, but again, Sukuna is very nerfed, and Sukuna was taken completely off guard, so he couldn't even defend against it by reinforcing his ears with his cursed energy. And as Sukuna is frozen, Yuta makes the full chance for Hollow Purple as he's got it ready, and the editor says, "Unleash your teacher's ultimate technique." And what a wild chapter it was. And yeah, it seems like Yuta did have this plan from the very beginning. He had this recording set right from the beginning, and even when he tried to use Hollow Purple right in the start, it seems like I may be looking too much into it, but I think he actually let himself get punched away very far so that he could create some distance to use the blue and also chant the Hollow Purple. It's pretty cool that this is like their 4th or 5th plan. You know, they had the Higuruma plan, they had the Yuji plan, they had the Kashima plan, the Gojo plan. They had just so many plans set in place, and this really is their last option. And even though this seems like it's their very last plan, they still have planned it in very much depth, where they must have had this cassette tape hidden in the background all the way. Maybe a crow put it there, maybe Yuta put it there, or maybe someone else put it there where nobody was looking. I mean, it must have been there when Yuta and Sukuna cast domain expansion, because everything that was in the area at that time was sucked in. So it's just wild how far this is all planned. I gotta be honest, and I do gotta give credit to Yuta for outsmarting Sukuna and also the fan base itself, since a lot of people were saying, damn, Yuta's garbage, he's not gonna be able to do anything against Sukuna. It seems like he's definitely gonna lose, which of course I do think he's gonna lose. I mean, I made a whole video saying Yuta can't beat Sukuna, and I also made this during the time when everyone thought Yuta was going to no diff Sukuna, so I was in the minority when I made that, and people called me crazy, but it seems like after 262, everyone started to come onto my side thinking, yes, likely Yuta isn't going to win this. And of course, I still don't think Yuta's going to win this. I think Sukuna is very crafty. He very likely has some plan or some trick up his sleeve to somehow survive the incoming Hollow Purple, or maybe something will interfere that will not allow him to one-shot Sukuna. But at the very least, I think that perhaps another Binding Vow may come in, where Sukuna is going to use a Binding Vow to free himself from Inumaki's technique, and this may nerf him majorly once again. It wouldn't surprise me, Sukuna is the king of Binding Vows, but I do think it seems like the direction that this is heading is Yuta will, even if he does lose, nerf Sukuna in a very major way that will at least allow Yuji to be the one to fully defeat him, because I of course do believe that Yuji will be the one to beat Sukuna in the end, to bring him into the dirt. It has to be Yuji. He's the main character for a reason, and it is his final battle. I will say one complaint I have is GEGE does these very awesome moments, such as Yuji getting Shrine, Yuta taking over Gojo's body, but I feel like perhaps he's a bit too realistic, and this is really funny because normally a lot of authors get criticized for not being realistic enough in their stories, but at least in JJK's case, I feel like it makes too much sense. Yuji gets Shrine, it's this awesome moment, but the actual moment itself is a bit boring. I mean, his technique, it's not very strong because he just got it, the output's not that very high, and he really doesn't use it again after that. Which, you know, makes sense within the story, it's all very logical and consistent, but it is also quite boring and quite lackluster. I imagine if another author had done Yuji using Shrine, it would have been really crazy. I mean, an absolutely wild moment, and it would be very overpowered, but it's sort of that balance, you know? You want a really hyped, very awesome, probably moments that would be remembered forever, absolutely iconic moments, or do you want lackluster and boring moments, but ones that are very realistic and logical? And I feel like that's what happened with Yuji with Shrine reveal, and that's what's also going on with Yuta taking over Gojo's body. It was a very awesome moment, and I do think that the reveal is still iconic, but there were a lot of expectations of Yuta being able to use his technique very well, or us getting a long drawn out battle, which of course it makes sense that we didn't, since if he could use Gojo's ability at his fullest, just like Gojo could, the fight would be over already, is something I discussed in 2 videos ago. So again, it makes sense logically why Yuta can't use Gojo's techniques. I mean, even then, it's realistic and it makes sense, but it's just a bit lackluster, the fight that we're getting so far, because he did take over Gojo's body, but the Sukuna that he's fighting is nerfed to the ground and he still can't really beat him, you know? I'm not saying it's bad at all, I still really like it, I loved Yuji's Shrine reveal, I'm just saying it's maybe not as crazy hype as it could have been, you know? But that's just how I feel about it. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my take. I mean, do you guys also feel like maybe the Yuji Shrine reveal was a bit lackluster, or even Yuta being in Gojo's body is not as crazy as we thought, or do you feel the complete opposite? Do you feel like, you know, reading back at these moments, it was actually really cool? And I don't deny that it was cool, I'm just saying it's not nearly as crazy as it could have been. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on that specifically, and of course on the chapter as a whole. Let me know in the comments down below, and of course if you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like, it helps out a ton, thank you. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for a ton of consistent and quality JJK content just like this. Like I said in the intro, less than 10% of people who watch my videos are subscribed, so if you love JJK, I assure you, you won't regret subscribing. And of course, thank you to all the channel members as well, it is always much appreciated guys, but that's all from me. Have a great day and take care.